It's been popping up.
Okay, so go ahead and be my wing people, please.
You got it.
Oh, thank you so much. OK, so je vais commencer en anglais et en français. Bonjour tout le monde, je m'appelle Catherine Ousselin. We're here for the AATF webinar, checking and reflecting on distance teaching and learning. What an amazing moment it's been. We have some excellent presenters today. We have some ideas to share to you, and we're going to go through this together. As we have said before, we're in this together. It's all of us. We have a couple of requests from our presenters. So we're a large group, and I'm just going to ask you to be respectful of everyone's speaking time when you're in a breakout room, a conversation room, not to continue too long because we can't answer everybody's questions. So if you have further questions, you can email the presenter after the meeting. And since we all come from different perspectives and locales, please be respectful of the different approaches to teaching, learning, and procedures. Some people get to see their students every day, and me, I don't have any synchronous teaching, and I get to offer 30 minutes of teaching a week. So we're gonna work through a lot of things. You do not need to display your video, and in fact, that does help with bandwidth. If you've got a slower Wi-Fi connection, you can just put your video in blank for right now, but maybe in the chat rooms if you want to connect with each other by video, that's up to you. But please keep your microphone muted unless you'd like to speak in one of those rooms. Okay. And then we have one more, and I'm going to try and put this down here. Oops. So if you have a question or if you want to do something, there's a little like a raise your hand type of emoji from the box. It's under the manage participants. It's a little emoji like you can raise your hand or you can give a thumbs up. Okay, so today, les objectifs, hein? We're going to try and provide moral and tangible support to French teachers and their students. And I'm more along the moral portion right now because I know that a lot of things that I could put out for my students, it's not going to provide the same atmosphere or experience for my students as a real classroom. So I'm here for listening and supporting. We also have tangible support. You know, we've got things that we can share with you, give you, if you've never taught online before, if you've never designed something with Google Slides that's interactive for your students, we have actual things that we can get for you. We're going to share strategies and ideas together in those conversation rooms for curriculum design and modifications, mostly modifications. We're going to demonstrate the technology tools and some workarounds. And then I'm going to show you some of the AATF curricular and authentic resource platforms that should be able to help you out. So just a little bit about our ordre du jour. We have our introduction and reflections from our presenters. We have amazing people with us today who have dedicated 2 hours, maybe an hour and a half if we're quick today, of their knowledge, experience. They're not experts as they tell me, but they're here on a volunteer basis, and they're real teachers, so we appreciate their time and experience. There's going to be a shared resource document, and this is just for our quick, if you want to put something in that you know about, and I will try and get that into a Wakelet, you can click on that link, and there's a few things already in there from Necessful, a resource bank, from NEL. We've got the Early Language Learning Network. We've got a couple of things from the Cultural Services, a TikTok somebody shared yesterday, Epic Book. So if there's something that you'd like to share, just sort of pop it in there. We'll make sure everybody gets to see that. There's a conversation room number 1, where it's going to be open to everybody talking like, how are you? There's another conversation room, number 2. It's where our presenters are going to sort of facilitate rooms with specific topics, and we'll get to that in a moment. And of course, the curated resources, materials. I put up my website. If you need lots of ideas for technology or curriculum design, go ahead and look at my website. The first one, like I said, that we're going to do, it'll be 20 to 25 minutes. You'll be put randomly into groups. And the question that we're going to look at, just what has it been like to transition into distant learning? How has that impacted your lives and your routines? What's been working well? What's been a challenge? What can we do to brainstorm together? Okay. The second one, I'm going to need you to be on our presentation because there's a topic list that I'd like you to look at. If you click on that link, or this is one right here, Teresa is not with us today. I will see if I can take over hers, but as the moderator, I kind of need to go back and forth between the rooms. But Justin Charles is here, Nathan Lutz is here, Heidi and Katie are here, and they each have topics like thinking ahead for fall 2020. That's massive because truthfully, I'm not sure what's going to happen in September, or when we do come back in September, what's it going to look like? We have students coming in from different schools, from different teachers. Let's talk about that. Nathan is our expert in the K-6 area. So if you need to talk to someone about what it's like to work with students on distance learning, at that age, he's your person. And then Heidi is here to talk about technology and tools. And Katie has a couple of options. She had self-care and flexibility, but she's excited or willing or interested in talking about the AP test, because a lot of us saw yesterday that there was going to be some changes, and maybe we can have that conversation. This is from our last webinar, and I'm not going to read all of it, but it was just something for you. You have this presentation. These are things that we're considering as we go through this transition. And so the most important thing is the compassionate, engaging, and reflective teaching during school closures and national emergencies. Just what are we expecting from our students? What are our proficiency benchmarks going to look like? And what's the balance between using all this technology and just what do we expect our students to be able to do? And then how can we expect a classroom experience when we're in our dining rooms or our home offices? And then maybe the AP testing. So you can look at that, and maybe if you have some questions, you can come back to those later. There's a bunch of links for you to look at. I'm not going to go through them right now, but those are just some more resources for you. If you'd like to look at the March ATF webinars, they're listed there. There's 3 of them. It's all the same, but you know, each webinar might have a little bit different personality, so take a look at those. I think it was Katie that shared the world language instructional modes from the Virginia Department of Education. And then I really, really impress upon you that the basics of teaching online from Occidental College in California is an impressive website to go look at. Okay, so Kisamu, we're going to take a few minutes and introduce you to our presenters, and they're going to give you some reflections on their own experiences. And we're going to start with Justin Charles. And Justin, am I correct? You'd like to stay like this right now? Just me sharing my screen?
Yep, that's fine. You can leave your screen just how it is.
Okay.
So my name is Justin Charles. I teach at Round Lake High School. Our last day with students was March 13th. And we were told that we would be getting a week off before spring break and then coming back after spring break. And about 45 minutes ago, it was announced by our governor that we will not be returning to school at all this year. So that's where I'm at. The session that I am leading is getting ready for fall 2020 and what that's going to look like based upon what will be happening at that time. Because that's still something that's a little unsure at this time.
Thank you, Justin. Katie.
Hi, I'm Katie Wheelock. I'm in Arlington, Virginia, and I teach high school French at a public school. And Friday the 13th, March 13th, was our last day as well. The governor in Virginia decided a little bit earlier that we would be at stay-at-home lockdown till June 10th, and schools have been closed until the end of the year for a while now for us. I guess, Catherine, you're going to need to give a little advice. If I do this session on self-help and flexibility, it's kind of how we're taking care of ourselves as teachers. And, you know, strategies for helping to recenter us so we can move forward with the work we're doing. Mm-hmm. I'm interested in collaborating for the AP, but I don't profess to be an expert in how to move forward. And I didn't even see the webinar last night that was for the parents. So
I have an idea. I can start a room. Those who are interested in that, mm-hmm. Okay, instead of Teresa's room, we'll just have that going. Okay. And I'll pop in as needed because maybe somebody did see it last night and they can just lead as a facilitator on just for a discussion about what people are thinking. But thank you, Katie.
Okay. So I've found it's been really hard to focus and to get work done. I've had a couple of super productive days where I've done amazing amounts of work for 12 hours at a time, and other days where I just can't focus and get anything done. So I hope I can help out a little bit.
So beautiful. Thank you, Katie. So again, Teresa Fluck is, she's a teacher down in Tennessee. She'll be here. She'll be on the webinar tomorrow. Her portion will be recorded. So if you do want to talk. If you want to listen in on her portion, you would look for Saturday's webinar and you'll see her presentation. Okay. So I'm going to go on to our next presenter is Heidi. Heidi, would you like to use the screen or talk as is?
I'm good talking as is.
Okay.
All right, so bonjour tout le monde. I'm Heidi Trude. I am a French teacher at Loudoun Valley High School in Purcellville, Virginia. You guys are free to connect with me. My email is up on the screen, so techietrude@gmail.com, or you can reach out on Twitter, htrude07. I'm also on our AATF Virginia. I serve as one of our board members there. I serve as FLAVA President-elect, SCOLP Board of Directors, and I was the 2019 Actual Teacher of the Year finalist. For my school, we were the first school division in Virginia to close. I found out the morning of March 11th that my school was closing, got a nice little phone call and text at 5 a.m. saying school was closed. No warning at all the day before that it was going to happen, so it was a nice surprise to everybody, meaning we were given then an hour to go in to grab materials, and whatever you got in that hour is what you had. So we've been doing this now over a month. Some of it has been asynchronous, some has been review only, and now just this week we started teaching with new content, so I've kind of gone a little bit all over the place with it. Some things I've liked, some I haven't. So in my breakout, I'll talk about what tech tools have really been effective, ones that aren't as effective, and just kind of some ideas of how you can leverage those tools in your classroom during this time. So looking forward to hearing from everyone.
Thank you, Heidi. Okay, Nathan, come on in.
Hey everyone, I'm Nathan Lutz. I am the Global Learning Coordinator for students junior pre-K through grade 12 and a primary school French teacher, so grades junior pre-K through grade 5 at an independent school for girls in New Jersey, Kent Place School. I'm currently the 2020 chair of the Northeast Conference on the Teaching of Foreign Languages and serving as past president of the National Network for Early Language Learning. And teaching elementary school kids via distance world languages are still being taught asynchronously, and core classroom classes are being taught synchronously. So it remains to be determined if we're going to be doing live classes, but I've gotten pretty good about writing good asynchronous lessons and all that. So,
okay, Nathan, I think you may have cut out just a tiny bit there at the end.
oh, sorry, I said we're on week 3
Okay.
of our distance learning.
Okay, wow. Week 3. Well, thank you, Nathan. And so my name is Catherine Ousselin. I'm out in Washington State, kind of where everything started off. So I have French 2 through AP at Mount Vernon High School. I'm also a World Language Technology Coach, and I'm currently the AATF Technology Social Media Chair with Resource Curation. How many of you know some of us from French Teachers in the U.S., a Facebook page? Could you just give us a little thumbs up? I'm going to just put up the stop share for a second. Take a look at everybody. Thumbs up, either with the emoji. There's so many of us together, right? So you're probably going to be hearing things that you see me or someone else pushing out a lot, right? And what we want to say is this is our chance to get together. I chose to put the webinars out a little bit after, like later in March, when everything started, rushing up together. And I said, well, let's just wait a moment and think about this, because everybody's going to have a different teaching experience. Some schools just closed in Iowa. They're just finishing up this now. North Dakota, South Dakota, still open. No, excuse me, South Dakota is not. I did look that up. But if I had started these webinar series right away, and then things changed, we would have done all of this extra work for, for some good, but not the best. Then we waited a few more weeks. We're now, April 17th. I said, let's start another round and see what does it look like. So today we're kind of giving this idea of where are we now in this, for me, it's a month today. This is exactly the day where I was supposed to go to school 1 month ago, and I'm here. So we're going to go through this, and I want to go back here to this conversation room. Now that you've met all the presenters, this is slide number, I think, 6. Okay, if you haven't had a chance to go on there, there is a link that takes you to a conversation room poll. We're going to have the first conversation room. You'll be in just anyone's group, and you'll have those basic questions. How are you doing? What are some challenges? Then on the second room, you're going to choose one of these, and remember that Teresa is not here, so please don't choose this first one, but if you'd like to be the AP, that's what I'm going to, replace it with. There'll be an AP room if you just want to talk about that. So Justin, Nathan, Heidi, Katie, or any room will work if you can put your name and the room that most interests you. And then it's a little bit of a process for me to put everybody in their own rooms, but we'll get in there. It worked yesterday, and then you'll be able to talk with our presenters. Just, what are your thoughts? Okay. So we're going to do the first conversation room, and it's about 20 to 25 minutes. We notice about 20 minutes is pretty good depending on the size of the rooms. Everybody gets a chance to talk. You can use camera or not. And the questions are transitioning into distance learning, and what's been working well, and what are some of your challenges. So to do this, I'm going to stop the share for a few seconds, and I'm going to create these rooms.
There we
go. So good afternoon, everybody. My name is Miriam. I'm in Los Angeles. And yes, I gave the Grand Concours Prior on March 16 or 17 on Zoom because our closed at that time, and everything went fine. And tomorrow we are giving a placement test to the incoming students, so that is going to be another story. Actually, we are practicing with some colleagues after that meeting, but it's challenging.
Hi. Oh, Laura, were you going to talk some more about the exam?
No, go ahead.
I'm in a little different position. I teach at St. Martin's University, so in Washington State, and we have been teaching, we went online on the 16th of March, so it's been a month since we did that. None of us asked for this, of course, and my classes right now are synchronous, and my biggest challenge, I would say right now, is testing. Oral testing on Zoom. Zoom is very easy to do. It just takes forever. What I would do in an hour now takes 4 hours because you have to schedule individual appointments for students. So that's part of my challenge right now, and also just missing my students and colleagues. But I think that's where everybody is.
Mm-hmm. Have you used Flipgrid? Because that's
I haven't.
Yeah, I mean it's not really. I mean, it is a kind of assessment, but you can give the kids a prompt, and they have to speak for a minute or whatever. And you can tell if they're reading or not, or if they've memorized it. So
and they can also interact with each other on it too. So you put out a prompt, and definitely. You can set it up in your administrator tools.
Okay.
So it's a great, so you could, just like in a college course where you're saying, put a posting and then respond to 2 classmates. It just gets some, it's not true interpersonal, but it's, approaches it a little bit better than nothing.
I have used the breakout rooms for students, but the other challenge that I'm facing is that even college-age students are terribly untech savvy. I thought I was just kind of middle of the road, but it turns out I'm highly advanced compared to students. They know what they know how to do, but in terms of using technology in academically useful ways, that they're kind of limited.
Right. They know how to make TikToks.
You know, I'm teaching middle school, and they are pretty good too. So now I coached one today. They are taking picture of themselves, but the picture is moving, so you think the student is
So
It is
I'm
definitely
Kimberly
a
Harder,
challenge.
and I teach in Mexico, New York. So I'm up in upstate New York by Lake Ontario.
I used to live in
it's-
Oswego.
Oh, did you? Hi. Nice to see
Small
you
world.
or meet you. Yeah, so this is week 5 for us, and so the first 2 weeks we had one day to get ready. So I teach French 2 through 5, and my 4 and 5 are college prep courses through SUNY at Oswego. So we had a day to get ready, and a couple of days more that we actually could go in because we had no cases in our county. So this is week 5, but just give you the quick rundown. 2 weeks where we sent home paper packets, and then and everything was review. And then the next 2 weeks were transitioned into online learning, and then we just started having the capability to move forward with content. So we use Microsoft Teams, and we have a list of things that we can use. It's a pretty extensive list. Flipgrid is on there. We also use Schoology as our LMS, and you can pretty much do what you can do in in Schoology. You can do. I also use like Google Classroom. So I guess I'm lucky in the sense that we have a suggested schedule. In foreign language, like I think Catherine said, gets 30 minutes of applied learning. Other than that, it's, we're supposed to be online. But I'm pretty lucky because I've been able to meet and greet with my students. I do a level a day for an hour. So I do 5, 4, 3, 2, and then on Fridays I call it Calendar Talk Plus More. And, we do some activities there. If we're talking about challenges, I think the biggest challenge right now, I think I'm lucky here. Well, here's our thing. We are the only state that gives regencies. So now the regencies have been canceled. And so it's really going to fall on us. And we just found out yesterday, we're closed till May 15th. So we have another month of this at least. And with the regencies being canceled, what we have to do is we have to decide if the student has met the standard to be able to award them the advanced regents diploma. That's a pretty big deal in our state. So we have the 1 credit that we need for graduation, which is the low checkpoint A at the end of 8th grade. So that has to be decided. And then we have to decide, who gets the credit. So the biggest challenge right now is our ghost. I call them our ghost. And those are the kids who are not having any contact with us at all. I spent 3 hours on the phone calling parents the other day just saying, look, we're in week 5. And I have absolutely nothing from your child. And we have, because we're rural, we have students who don't have internet. It's a small amount, maybe 45 out of 625. But what I found out was that I thought my students didn't have internet, but they did. And they just were not. So it's going to be very challenging, and we're talking about going to pass-fail. Who is going to get awarded? Though, how do we decide that those kids have met the standard? If in fact that they are what I'll call ghost. In other words, they're not participating. And I'm giving them ample, opportunities, as I'm sure everybody is. But we are not allowed to take grades. We can only give feedback, such as C is incomplete, E is an excellent, something that can be translated to a number down the road. But just had a coordinators meeting yesterday. We're thinking about going to pass-fail, so then we're just going to have to decide what that looks like. So those are our biggest challenges right now.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say, I've heard one of my supervisors, when I told my students did the National French exam, he suggested maybe using that as a placement test in a way, and to, see where the kids fall in terms of their abilities and their skills, maybe that's something that it is an online test they can all take. It's timed. You either the material or you don't. So I don't know. It's something to consider in these circumstances. For like you say, if you have to place students or they have to, reach a certain proficiency to move on, it's a good measure of their abilities, I think.
Hi. Yes, I am Henriette Sindri. I'm from Baltimore International Academy, and I'm a program coordinator for the French immersion. So we have been home since March 13. We got 2 weeks with packet, and now we are all online. It has been very stressful for teachers because they have few days to get ready for online classes. We have a requirement of Google Classroom. So all teachers created Google Classroom with students, and it's really difficult, especially for the little one, kindergarten, first grade, second grade, to be able to complete work in a Google Classroom. We also have a requirement for a live classroom, at least 2 hours a week, meet students online. When we started, teachers were using Zoom, Google Meet, and since this week, the district banned Zoom, banned Google Meet, and the only option that was given was BB Collaborate. And with BB Collaborate, it's not easy because you don't see all students, and it's really difficult to manage. I think BB Collaborate was done for college students. With Dolly kids, it's not that easy to use. So right now, there's a frustration because teachers really want to use Zoom or Google Meet, but they have to go by the district guideline. Mm-hmm. We are also been having our grade level meeting with teacher, our staff meeting online, and in the administration position is also so stressful because we spend the day troubleshooting with teacher, receiving call from parents. I'm not able to log in my Google Classroom. My password needs to be reset. So that's, finally we work even more than 12 hours a day. Because like me, since I sat down at 8, today I am still sitting, I am still working. So it's been really stressful for us. And, today we just heard that we will be going until May 15 in Maryland. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in Connecticut, and we're going to May 20th for sure, and I highly doubt we're going to be going back at all. I know New York already is done for the year, right?
I think New York, what happened was that would it be what's down from the governor is that the mayor of New York City suggested that they close, but Governor Cuomo did not, so it was just he's kind of taking it over. And us being up to date, I just read a letter from our senators who would like to, we have a, let's just say we have a lower case number compared to New York City, though it is existent. And they just, want to be treated a little bit differently than New York City because we're not as densely populated.
Yeah.
Governor yesterday closed till May 15th. I think that we are. But just, I have to tell you, my daughter is a senior at UConn. So she's home and she's her courses online. So we're through the initial disappointment just because of the severity of the situation. But yeah. So with a lot of seniors missing their graduation, but yeah.
I know, yeah.
So.
Hello.
It's challenging.
Yes.
My school actually proposed 2 alternate graduation dates, one in July and one in October, depending on when we're able to convene together again.
Mm-hmm. Very nice. We have a cool little thing we're doing for our seniors where they can put up their picture, and it's in a school logo and say where they're going and whatever. And so it's we're doing some things like that that are nice for the kids. But anyway, so
hello. I'm do I have to? I was just going to chime in. I guess I'm more like Kathleen. I'm teaching at Florida International University, and we've moved to they moved to pass-fail and or no grade options pretty quickly in this whole thing, and graduation is going to be done via Zoom, but they will have certain graduation dates that would be possible down the line. I found that I was surprised how quickly that I was able to. I mean, the same case as everyone else. Like a month or so ago, saying like, oh, all of your classes are going to be meeting on Zoom, and I'm surprised how quickly I had learned it, but also my students adapted quite well. Of course, you have students that don't come to class occasionally because their internet is down, or they're late to class because they had to wait in line at the grocery store, or they got called into work. I mean, you have to be very adaptable. But I did find in Zoom that in my course, for example, on Quebec, that students could present short presentations with share screen, and we were able to keep going through the through the textbook fairly well. I think the challenge for me was the course on French phonetics, where all of a sudden it's like, how are you going to get students to write in phonetic alphabet on an online test? So, but we managed. I see we're going to be going to the main session now, but good to hear from everybody.
yes.
Yep.
We're all in it together, worldwide.
Mm-hmm. Bon courage.
I am Nirva Vernet, and I am in Richmond, Virginia. And I was listening to everybody. Hi, everybody. And we practically have the same problems. I use Google Classroom and also Zoom, but same thing with the Go students. They do not show up. So when I am there for the class, I may only have 2 students out of 15. So spend the time also to call the parents, and sometimes the parents didn't even know that the child wasn't there. So it's a
I see Katie's picture first. So Katie, would you please talk to us about what you heard in your group, some takeaways, connections, or questions?
One person said that it's a lot of struggling and juggling. And I love that because, yeah, I think that sums up a lot of what we're doing. A lot of concern over the cheating that can take place when the students aren't with us in the classroom, and getting used to how to deal with that in this distance learning environment, and questions about how to do assessments, which I think is maybe perhaps linked with the cheating issue, and just the learning curve, that we're all at different places, and even if we've been doing this for 3 weeks, we're still trying to figure it out.
Yeah, I think it would probably take us about a year to learn, just like when we're in student teaching, right? It's not something that we just all of a sudden learned how to do this weekend. I want everyone to realize that this is, you have been asked to change your entire formation professionnelle, right? It's not what we learned. So let's just try things out. The cheating thing, I'm one of those people that say designing tasks that make it less easy, so grammar, filling in the boxes, or writing sentences, those types of things where they can, where you're asking them to produce, that's usually where you get a lot of the cheating, I think. And right now I'm just relying on interpretive, so listening and reading selections for my students, because truthfully it's a little bit less stress for them, and they tend less often, not always not, to cheat. What else did you hear, Katie?
I think those were kind of our big takeaways, but that we're really all, even though for many of us we closed around March 13th, the way our school systems have either, they dove right in and had kind of a set schedule, even though it was reduced, maybe teaching from 10 to 1. And then, another school system that is just now really starting to kind of work into that. And some of us are only meeting with our students, if we're lucky, 30 minutes to an hour per week. And in my case, it's 1 hour for all of my students, unless I'm lucky to get some before or after school time. Yeah.
I'm going to just take a quick poll with either the little thumb icon or the actual thumb. How many of you are offering actual assessments, like stuff that you would put in your grade book right now for an assessment grade, like quizzes or tests? Okay. No,
it's kind of a complicated question for us.
Yeah, or complicated. Yeah, that sideways thing. The reason why I asked is, what we've been seeing online about the equity of asking students to do, actual assessment, something that goes in the grade book as a quiz, a summative grade. Let's put it that way, a summative grade. I don't know how we can ask a lot of families to make. How many of you are parents? Let's do that. Okay, yeah, I'm not, but I have friends who are, and it's an amazing amount of work, especially if you had a child in elementary school or middle school or high school, or in all three of those. That would have been my family. All three levels, one computer, maybe one device, and then the teacher says, well, I want PDFs. Let's just remember that we cannot recreate that classroom experience, and summative grades might be something that is a lot smaller than we can imagine. A lot of you are putting questions in or ideas in the chat box. Definitely look at those. Okay, I'm going to go back to sharing my screen, Kitty. Thank you so very much for sharing out. How about Justin? Do you have some takeaways?
Our group was kind of all over the place with how much time we get to work with our students. And there were quite a few AP teachers in my group, and just their general concern for how that's going to all work out. So it was a bunch of people who all want to do the right thing and the best thing for their students, and who are all kind of struggling. I think that's probably all of us. So hello, you met me in the last part. So if you just want to go around, introduce yourself, kind of give what your situation is, what your challenges are, what's been working, what hasn't been working, anything you want to talk about. This is kind of just letting us know where everybody is at. So if somebody wants to go first, just wave and... Okay.
I'll start. So I am Susan Haley. I teach at Wakefield with Katie Wheelock, one of the other moderators here today. We've been working asynchronously with our students. I have been using Canvas, so I'm so thankful for that I at least know how that works and how to upload tasks. I think the biggest challenge is the percentage of students completing the work versus the amount of time and effort I'm putting into assignments. We are to do enrichment activities for our students that are C or higher, and then we have to do remediation activities for those students that are a D or an E. And then based on their completion of those either remediation or enrichment activities, they can boost their final course grade, one letter grade, if they complete those. So my biggest challenge is finding work that's meaningful and not just an activity to check the box.
Okay. Rita, you had your hand up earlier, so if you want to unmute yourself, you are here, I can do it.
Okay.
And now you can talk.
Okay. We were asked to go off Zoom and use Google Meet, so I'm a little getting less used to Zoom than I was before. But anyway, we also, everything, shut down before we had any actual training. And I've enjoyed kind of, every day I'm trying to kind of get better at 2 or 3 things. But I have found it very, very hectic. And then the students, we read half of Voltaire, half of Candide. And it was very difficult. This is with the AP class. And then when I said something was happening, they said, "Oh, Madame, can we finish Candide?" So that's been a little tricky doing that online. However, we're asked to send out a survey every week, like an exit ticket, how things are going. And, they seem very happy. But here's what I feel. I feel with all the different levels of students, I find for the middle school, it's really, I have an 8th grade class that I just adore. They're just wonderful. And I don't know if I'm doing the right balance with them. I feel that there's not the same energy in the classroom. And then I have another class that I think is having, I'm just trying to figure out what to do to make it right. I was surprised that in the surveys, I just expected them to say, "Oh, it's horrible, blah, blah, blah." And it's like everything else. Some of the students feel we're going a little too slowly. Others, they would like more. Also finding the balance between synchronous and asynchronous and, having them speak. I did get onto that site Extempore. Has anybody done that? Catherine had put it out as a really good recording platform. Have any of you done that? And it's very easy to plop in the AP questions in there for the conversation. And I did attend the AP webinar last night, but we're not here to talk about AP, right? But so that's about all I have to say right now.
Okay. Does somebody want to go next? Okay, Susan Brown.
Hi. I am in North Carolina. I teach at Gaston Day School. And our last day of school was March 13th, at which time we left on spring break. So we had a week of normally scheduled spring break, which is early because we're a private school. And during that time, we got some instruction from administration on the platform that we would be using. So we're using Google Hangouts and just some skills to use different tools that might be useful. I think at the end of that week was the week that Kathleen had her webinar, so that was so very helpful. And then the following week, where we would normally go back to school, there was training for the students, online training, and for the parents to get everybody kind of up and running. And the plan was that we would have our normally scheduled day of 5 classes a day for 70 minutes a class. And after 7 days of that, everybody was about dead because you would teach all day in front of a computer and then you would be up all night trying to figure out lessons that you could do on a computer, as well as homework, quizzes, tests, just developing everything. And now what we've done is we've shortened the day. We're still doing half a day of synchronous teaching, but our classes are 45 minutes, so we don't have, it's just not so draining for everybody, the students too. And then in the afternoon, we have what we call asynchronous time for 2 hours, and the students can check in with teachers or vice versa. We can set time up with the teachers. So it's been better, but I still feel the challenge is trying to get quizzes that you may have done normally on paper into their hands in a technological fashion. it's just so time consuming to do. So I still, my goal this week was to leave my dining room table and clean up all my stuff at 5 o'clock, and I made that twice. So that's been my challenge, is just to walk away from this work that has now pervaded every aspect of my life. But the kids, we've kept our clubs going at school. So we've had French club, and that's been fun. The kids have enjoyed touching base with each other, and we do it all through Google Hangout, which works pretty well. So, and we just heard that we're going to be out at least through mid-May now. And if we do go back, May 18th, I think, is when it would be, we would have essentially a week of school and a week of exams, and that would be it. So I don't even know if it's worth going back at that point, but that's what the plan is right now.
Okay, who would like to go next? Okay, Samantha Curry.
Yes, I'm Samantha. I'm from Keller High School here in Texas, and the governor did just shut us down to the end of the school year. And just today they came on and said we're going to be close to the end of the school year. I haven't seen my students face to face, in person since March 6th, because we went on spring break at that point. So this is our 5th week on online learning, and the first 2 weeks were basically supposed to be review and just giving them stuff to just kind of keep up their French a bit. And then the last, like I said, it was really the first 3 weeks. And then last week and this week, we've been able to actually give them new stuff, and the district gave us guidelines of what we're supposed to be teaching each week. I see my kids once a week for a Zoom lesson, and that's not required, for 45 minutes. And then I can give them 1 hour of work a week on top of that. So that's all they get. And so I get 1 week to teach the imperfect versus the imparfait in a 45-minute lesson. Sorry, it's a little insane. Yeah, I was like, but my coordinator, my world language coordinator said, you have to think of it as you're just trying to just let them see it, not necessarily teach it to them. You're not a teacher anymore, basically. You're just showing them it, and and I'm like, okay, but that's not what I got into this to do. So it's been a little challenging, and I also am dealing with the AP stuff, like Rita was mentioning earlier, so I'm looking forward to maybe talking about that a bit later.
Okay, let's just go to the other Samantha.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm from Missouri, and we've been out of school since March 6th. Similar situation to you all, where we're just plugging along, trying to give kids material, but it's harmless for them in terms of grades. Well, we're not going to be going back this school year, and I wanted to join this room just to sort of, I don't think anybody has any answers about next year, but I wanted to speculate on sort of what that would look like for a classroom setting so that we could think about how we can best instruct. And Susan, you said something about assessments. That's something I'm really struggling with too, how to properly assess students, or maybe assessment doesn't even really matter at this juncture because, like the other Samantha said, we're just there to kind of expose kids to things and keep them mentally engaged. So I guess I just wanted a little bit of a compass. So that's what I came here for.
Okay, Rob, why don't you go next?
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Yes, I'm similar to Samantha Curry in Texas at Fort Worth Country Day, an independent school, and I teach 7th and 8th grade French. And yes, since spring break, we've been shut down, and yes, it looks like that's going to be the case for the rest of the school year. And yeah, so it's a mixture of synchronous and asynchronous teaching. I see them once every 3 days, although we do have office hours if anybody wants to drop in. And obviously it's looking to maintain the curriculum as much as possible, but obviously, yeah, with the time constraints, we're doing 30-minute sessions, so it's not possible to do as much as we would do in the classroom, obviously, but just giving them as many opportunities to speak as possible, because with the lack of contact time and the lack of speaking time, you can definitely notice a drop-off. So obviously looking to connect with colleagues from around the country and pick up some ideas and yeah, stay motivated and help everybody through this challenging time.
Okay, let's move to Siama.
Hey, I'm in Texas too. I teach at Allen. We closed school for spring break on March 6th, and we had spring break and an extended spring break of another week where they try to figure out how we are going to do this. So this is our 4th week of at-home learning. This semester doesn't count towards their GPA. But it counts towards getting credit for them, so that's why we have to provide them work and monitor their progress. So we are supposed to give them work by 8 a.m. Monday morning, which is going to be due by Sunday evening, the following Sunday evening around at midnight. So we have a number of minutes. We have 110 minutes of work that we can give for our on-level kids or pre-AP kids. But AP and IB gets 220 minutes of work per week. That's how they have decided, because we still have AP and IB exams. I'm juggling between, I'm sorry. So I'm juggling between AP and IB because I teach both. I'm getting ready to do my IB individual oral exams with my SL kids on Monday and Tuesday. Has them scheduled Zoom meetings for those, and we have to do audio recording, video recording and everything, and upload them onto their IB website. That is going to be their final exam for IB. And AP, we don't know what we are doing still, so that's the situation. So as Samantha was saying, I mean, I would like to know, I mean, we are closed for the rest of the year. We are not going back, as Texas governor just declared that. What are we going to do next year? How is this going to impact us next year? So what's the plan for next year? That's what I want to see if we can come up with something.
Okay, let's move to Sophia.
Sure. Hi, I'm Sophie. I'm in Brooklyn, New York. We're also not going back at all this year, which is kind of crazy. It's also my first year teaching, so that's great. I definitely, it's been okay. We've been using Google Classroom and Zoom, although now we're going to be transitioning to Google Meet because Zoom is insecure, apparently. And we're currently on spring break, but we're technically working, but it's like we have been told not to give anything new, so we're calling it like a slowdown, which nobody really knows what that means. So I guess I've definitely been struggling with just not really knowing if I'm doing enough or doing too much. Kids are saying they're overwhelmed. I feel like I'm not doing a lot, but combined with everything that all of their teachers are giving them, kids are definitely saying that they're a little bit stressed out by the amount of work. And I have 7th and 8th grade, so it's interesting to see the kids kind of struggling with developing their independent work habits as well, which they definitely are not as developed and used to working so independently as maybe a high school or college student would be. So just kind of wanted to hear from other people, see what other people are doing.
Okay, Valerie?
All right, teaching high school. We've been doing this for a month minus the spring break or week of spring break. And, it's going pretty good as far as, it's my third week doing it. I assign a lesson that I post on Monday of each week. And then they have a list of tasks that they have to do. And then they have, following the task, they have approximately 2 to 3 assignments, tasks that they have to submit on Canvas. That's what we're using. And the majority of the students are turning in work. So they may have a little, Canvas quiz to do, which doesn't count for much, but and then a journal and a speaking that they have to, they have to record themselves and speak for approximately 2 minutes, and that's one thing that they submit on Canvas. So I feel like, as long as we get them engaged and producing something, and then we'll see. Of course, I don't think we can expect them to be at the same level, next year, next September. But I think that's, I think that's the best we can do. And I don't think we should expect too much of ourselves and of our students.
Okay, and our last person, Jay Bybee.
Oh, you pronounced my name absolutely perfectly. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Oh, great. I'm actually a retired French teacher from Bell High School, which is a high school in, let's see, Los Angeles, LA Unified. And I retired, but I have a friend who teaches at Downey High School named Melissa Salvato. And she and I are in contact a lot. You know Melissa?
Yes, of course I know her.
Yeah, and so I would like to help her, and I would also like to see what's happening because I've actually been retired for about 8 years now, and I still would like to be of use in my profession of choice. So I want to see what's going on with all the technology, and I hear about lots of struggles right now among teachers putting everything together and having this just dumped on them all at once. So I'm just kind of looking at this and seeing what you all are doing and how I could be of help to Melissa perhaps. So that's why I'm here today.
Okay. So we are all in very different places, from engaging with our students 220 minutes a week for some. My niece goes to school and takes French, and her teacher is only allowed to give them an hour of work every week. So it's like a 20-minute lesson and then like 40 minutes of worksheets. So we're all in different places. Just what I want to tell you is there are no wrong answers. Do what you can do. Be there for your kids. And now we have to go back to the main room. So I will see you all back there.
Got a lot of people popping in back in. You're back on mute for right now. And if our presenters could unmute themselves, so Heidi and Justin, Katie, Nathan, go ahead and unmute yourselves. Give everybody a few more seconds to come back in. We've got some people that left the actual meeting, so we're going to let them.
And you guys can go ahead and unmute. It's no problem because we're a small group, so you may unmute yourselves.
Okay.
All right, let me put the chat up so I can make sure we're good. All right, and I see some of us are still getting in here. This should be about everyone in this first breakout, but we'll just make sure that everyone is zoomed over before we start. Give them one more second to get in because that looks about right. All righty, guys, so what we're going to do first in this first breakout is we're just going to talk some general what's working, what some struggles you have, and kind of brainstorm together and see what we can come up with, maybe some solutions, or maybe we come up with more issues in general that we're facing, and then we can bring it back to the bigger group. So what I'd like to do, and it worked really well yesterday, kind of so we know who everybody is, because we are a small group. If you guys just want to share your name, where you're teaching, and maybe how long you've been on closure, like when it happens, that would be awesome. And what I can do is I'll just call you guys out based on the order you appear in my screen. So the first person I see is Andrea.
Hi, I'm Andy Isbelli. I teach all levels of French at 2 high schools in Woodstock, including AP. So it's interesting because I have mixed classes I have 1 and 2 together in a classroom, and I have 3 honors, 4 AP together in a classroom. So that in and of itself has challenges. Oh, I'm hearing echoes.
Maybe mute yourselves, guys, if we're getting echo.
Yeah, a little bit. What I did was I had the foresight for some strange reason. I was supposed to go to France the week before spring break. Well, that got canceled. So I had made provisions for the kids to be working on things anyway. So life was wonderful there. And then after break, I had planned to read a book. So there was a level 1 and 2 book that we were doing, an easier reader that had questions, it had grammar, vocabulary, all included in the book. So literally I have no lesson planning to do. My 3-4s were reading Le Petit Prince. And so I had a huge packet of materials that I had already photocopied and disseminated to the kids before break. So that is working fabulously as well. I'm just doing a shared Google Doc that I send to them, and they all contribute on it. We do we meet regularly. We have block scheduling, which is a godsend. So our district has said we have an A rotation for periods 1 through 6, and then 7, 8, 9 plus 0 hour is on rotation B. So it's every other day kind of thing for a 90-minute block. The first 30 minutes I spend on a video with the kids. They don't like to show themselves as much. Some do, some don't. But we get that time to speak French, to connect, which is good. So I can hear them. I can help them with their pronunciation. We were told we're not allowed to. So we went on our quarantine on the 13th, March 13th, and I'm with Justin. So in Illinois, we were just told that today that we will not be meeting for the rest of the school year. So I have it worked out that we're going to just finish the book the rest of the year, 1 chapter per meeting. I answer any questions they have. We're not allowed to grade anything they're doing right now, so we give a pass or an incomplete. So if they're not, I only have a few students who have not connected. Most of them are pretty much in now. They're getting used to the Google Meets. I even do movie Mondays, so we're trying to, I have to figure out how to watch a movie with everybody. So Catherine, I think I sent this question to you. I have to figure out how to watch a movie with these kids. They won't let me do Netflix party, so I have to figure out some other way to work that out. I also give them extra credit assignments that we can grade for points. So they're going to have the grade that they had on the 13th. They cannot go any lower than that grade, but they can go up. So if they can do makeup work from stuff that they've missed, they can do that to raise their grade or extra credit. So my first week extra credit I gave was cooking. So I shared a bunch of different recipes with them. Some kids made mousse au chocolat, some made crème brûlée, another one made a quiche, and I had them videotape the process, have their family try it out and give feedback. They had to reflect and write in French a little bit about, what the process was for them. So they loved that. So that was 1 extra credit. This week's extra credit was art. So I don't know if you guys saw, there's a really cool link to this. I can't remember what the museum is, but they gave some challenge to recreate art. So I gave them a list of French artists to research, and they're going to have to recreate the art for me using household items, whatever you have around. So it's kind of fun. So that's where I'm at. And I don't know how we're going to do finals or any of that, but that's where we're at.
I'm great. Sorry about that, guys. I didn't realize I was muted the whole time. Oops. It's okay. Beth, why don't you go ahead and share a little about your scenario, and just if you guys can kind of be mindful of your time, because we only have so much time in the breakout before we'll be zoomed back in to the main.
Sure. I am Beth Chevelle Fuller. I teach at a middle school near Pottstown, Pennsylvania. It's called Owen J. Roberts. Can you guys hear me?
Yep, you're good.
Okay. Our last day was March 12th. We were told after the kids left that day that we were done until it was like 2 weeks and 2 weeks. And then last Thursday, Governor Wolf said, we're done for the year. We have to do it from home. We also are dealing with the grading issue. Our principal hasn't told us yet if we're doing pass fail or grades, but we have to keep everything open. Like everything from March 30th was due today. So kids have been constantly turning stuff in, which is hard because I'm having trouble motivating a lot of the kids to do the work. Phone calls home, emails home. Twice a week we have Google Meets. Some kids come in, some don't. It's hard. Assignments that go well are things like I'm teaching commands. Tell someone in your family to do something, take a picture, write what you told them. They love that. Open your fridge, tell me what's in your fridge for the food unit. They like that. But it is hard to motivate. It's all French 1 kids, but 2 different levels. So I don't know. I mean, it's constant battle today. Grades are due midnight tonight, and I called probably 34 kids and parents the last 2 days who let me work. I have 146 kids. That's all. It's hard.
Yeah, it's hard. Especially the motivating some of them. Like today we had to focus on getting students who hadn't made any contact, trying to get them to make contact with us. So my strategy today was reach out to their friends who are in the class and have them text them or message them via Instagram, Snapchat, whatever. And now I'm down to 2. So maybe that's a way if you can ask the kids, like their friends, hey, message Johnny for me. Like, I haven't heard from him.
Thank you.
So, you're welcome. How about Beth Reynolds?
Reynolds, yeah.
Reynolds. Sorry about that. I apologize.
No, that's fun. I'm at a school here in New Hampshire. We've finished school on the 13th. I've been teaching for about 15 years. We're grading as normal, which has been fine. I have a lot of kids who participate, which is good. There haven't been too many who aren't participating. And I'm loving the fact that I have Screencastify and linked.com because I'm using those tools for speaking because I teach mostly 3rd, 4th year and then AP French.
Yeah.
So there needs to be speaking, but I feel the kids are losing. We've been out of school for like a month now.
Yeah.
They're sliding off the map in terms of speaking and pronunciation. So I'm interested in tech tools.
Yeah, and I'm going to share one. It's really awesome. It's a free tool that's actually built just like the AP platform for speaking. So if you're not going to be in my tech session, I can tell you now, but it's super cool.
I hope to be in your tech session.
Yeah, I'll take more than what Catherine says the limit is, so just keep telling her you want in. And I'll share some fun tools that are free. Everything is free because that's all I do.
Love that.
All right. So my next person on my list is A. Lands.
Anne-Marie.
Anne-Marie, voilà.
Anne-Marie, yes. So I am in Maryland in a county that has started this week for high schoolers and will start next week for middle and elementary school. For reason of equity, they had to wait so that every student would have access to technology. I'm a middle school teacher, so I am desperately waiting to start on Monday because it has been a long time, 5 weeks. But the advantage I see is that the students will have something that is more or less a program, an access to technology that is more or less similar for everybody. Now we'll see, the question is to see participation, indeed. I tried to engage them along these 5 weeks, but had between 25 and 50% of reaction. We'll see. Yeah.
It's not easy. All right, next up, thank you for sharing, Amanda and your adorable fur babies that I see. Let's see, Amanda, you can unmute.
So I'm in Kansas, and our last, and I teach at the high school, 1 through 4, because I'm the only French teacher. So our last day of classes was March 6th. We had spring break that next week, and then we were going to come back, and then the governor closed us down that either that week or the week after. So we were out for a good 3 weeks, and then our first classes coming back was March 30th. So we've been at it for 3 weeks, and so we have a bell schedule as well. So we have kids we only have 5 blocks a day because we're weird. We have trimesters. It's just crazy. So we had 2 weeks of a trimester, and then that's it. So it was nuts. So we have a lot of we're a very low income district. So when it comes to equity and everything, and everybody having internet, basically we have to do one synchronous lesson per week. And my lessons focus on SEL connections, and that's it. So whatever I do, if it's in French, it's very low level, kind of like the stand-up if game. I've been doing that with Pear Deck. So it's just, I just put it as me and not me. And if you ate too much Easter candy, then that's me, or something like that. And then we still have to grade. We still, and so like I said, they only had 2 weeks. So we have all that many weeks of new grades to put in. Wow. And so what I did was choice boards for my kids, so they could access them anytime. And I fiddled with those for these past 3 weeks. Finally did a Google site, and that actually might work. So I'm not so good with technology. I have lots of ideas, but not so good with the technology.
Just
so that's why I'm trying to be in your
Yeah.
session.
Email me anytime, and I'm happy to share anything. I have HyperDocs built for levels 2 all the way through AP, so if anyone wants them, I will share. All right.
Okay, and I've had some success. I'm making fun stuff for the activities.
Yeah,
So
yeah, they like fun stuff.
That's what I'm
fun
doing.
stuff that seems to engage them a lot more if it's kind of geared towards them and not like drill and kill type activities. They've seemed to really like those. So Bertha, why don't you go ahead and share, Bertha? Let's see. Bertha, are you there? You're unmuted. You can talk. We can't hear you, though. Oh, now you're muted. Hit the microphone again. There you go. Now try talking.
Maybe she doesn't have a microphone.
That's what I'm wondering, if she doesn't have.
Yeah.
Do you have
We'll
your
come
mic?
back.
Check. We'll come back.
Audio.
Yeah, it could be she didn't give her mic permission. Bertha, we'll come back to you. Try checking your audio settings. Alexandria, why don't you go ahead?
Let's see. Hello.
Hey. Oh, now we can see. There we go. We can see you.
Yeah, I just didn't have my video on.
You're fine. If you want to stay with it off, it's cool. I know it's Friday. It's the end of the day. And we've probably been in front of our screens all day.
Yeah, pretty much. So I teach in a school near Boston, so in Massachusetts. We've been online since sort of since March 13th. We had 1 week where we weren't supposed to post anything, and then after that we did start posting. We're not allowed to give grades, and we haven't been having a lot of participation, perhaps due to that. I've been doing Zoom meetings with the kids twice a week. I've been trying to do a variety of things. I tried doing a scavenger hunt on Seesaw, and I thought a lot of kids would take part in that, but they didn't. And I did do Money Musical with the kids, and that got some participation. But I got the Voces Digital that was available, and I've been doing some assignments in there. I've been doing Edpuzzle, I've been doing Flipgrids. I feel like I've been trying to do a lot of different things, and I'm not getting a lot of participation, so I'm pretty frustrated with that.
Yeah.
Especially with the Zoom meetings. I wish more kids would participate and get a chance to speak to each other, but yeah. So maybe in your tech session, I'll get some.
Yeah, I have some ideas. It's worked really well with my kids, but I love my babies. They pretty much will do whatever I ask them to do. And I mean, I'm down to 2 kids out of my 130 some kids, only 2 that haven't been engaged.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Yeah. But it's been, I mean, my list was really long at the start, but it's been constant, like, hey, I'm worried about you. And I've started doing like personal notes, personal message, like text messages through Remind to them, like pretty much any way I can reach out to them. And I found the more personalized the message was to them, the better reaction. Also, contacting mom and dad helped a lot too.
Okay.
Like,
a Google form to see what they would maybe prefer to do.
And I do that with my lessons. I do a reflection each week because we do ours weekly. So I put a reflection like, what did you enjoy the most? What activity would you like me to include? Kind of making it more personal. And then they see, oh, look, this week she added this for us. Or, hey, we didn't have to do that activity anymore. Like, just kind of personalize it to them and give them choices. And that will really help a lot, I think. All right. Let's see. Anna, go ahead. You can unmute. Just hit the microphone. There you go.
Okay, hi. Bonjour, I'm Anna Burns. I am teaching, I'm sort of teaching in Central New York. This is my 21st year of teaching. I teach level 1, level 3, level 4, level 5. I have Seal of Literacy students mentioned, and we've been out since Monday, March 16th. We came to school thinking that we were going to have that week to prepare and then have spring break. And then halfway through the day, they said, nope, you're going home today and staying there until we call you back. So it's been a struggle. We use Classroom, so that's helped. I've had 50% participation. So I'm definitely going to try the peer pressure to get more. I think it'll work well. I have Remind with my Skill by Literacy students. I started Remind groups for each of the classes for questions, and it's worked out really well. Like, I mean, just with some kids, just literally texting them through a worksheet, because I have academic level kids. I don't have the honors kids. I have the ones who really need that support, and now they're getting it. So it's been heartbreaking for me, because I have some kids who really want to try, but when they meet a wall, they'll just kind of shrug their shoulders and give up. So like everybody else, it's an uphill battle, but I tell them I'm more stubborn than you are, and we'll get through this. So I'm really interested to see, just collaborate with everybody. What's worked for you? What hasn't worked? Yeah. We do a little bit of online because we have Google Classroom, but it hasn't been this complete immersion in Google, like it is now. So.
All right, we've got, I just got a message from Katrine. We have about 1 more minute. So Jen, if you want to give us a quick little, okay, that's fine. I don't need to do anything with that on my screen. All right, so go ahead, Jen.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you just fine.
Okay, very good. Bonjour, and I'm Jen Hoff. I teach in Bridgewater Raritan High School in Bridgewater, New Jersey. We've been out since March 12th, and as of last check, we'll be out to until May 15th at least. I just have to say, first and foremost, how I miss my kids. I have no words for it. I've had a couple Google Meet sessions. We can't make them mandatory, so that's, an issue. But I just want to kind of like go through the screen, you know what I mean? It's just not the same. To be positive, I'm not a technology person, but I have learned so much over the last 3-4 weeks,
And if our presenters could unmute themselves, so Heidi and Justin, Katie, Nathan, go ahead and unmute yourselves. Give everybody a few more seconds to come back in. We've got some people that left the actual meeting, so we're going to let those people back in. I'm checking my email as we do this to make sure, because some people do either accidentally leave the meeting or get kicked out or something happens. So I think we're back in. I see Katie's picture first. So Katie, would you please talk to us about what you heard in your group, some takeaways, connections, or questions?
One person said that it's a lot of struggling and juggling. And I loved that because, yeah, I think that sums up a lot of what we're doing. A lot of concern over the cheating that can take place when the students aren't with us in the classroom, and getting used to how to deal with that in this distance learning environment, and questions about how to do assessments, which I think is maybe perhaps linked with the cheating issue, and just the learning curve, that we're all at different places, and even if we've been doing this for 3 weeks, we're still trying to figure it out.
Yeah, I think it would probably take us about a year to learn, just like when we're in student teaching, right? It's not something that we just all of a sudden learned how to do this weekend. I want everyone to realize that this is, you have been asked to change your entire formation professionnelle, right? It's not what we learned. So let's just try things out. You know, the cheating thing, I am one of those people that say designing tasks that make it less easy. So grammar, filling in the boxes, or writing sentences, those types of things where they can, where you're asking them to produce, that's usually where you get a lot of the cheating, I think. And right now I'm just relying on interpretive, so listening and reading selections for my students, because truthfully it's a little bit less stress for them, and they tend less often, not always not, to cheat. What else did you hear, Katie?
I think those were kind of our big takeaways, but that were really all, even though for many of us we closed around March 13th, the way our school systems have either, they dove right in and had kind of a set schedule, even though it was reduced, maybe teaching from 10 to 1. And then, another school system that is just now really starting to kind of work into that. And some of us are only meeting with our students, if we're lucky, 30 minutes to an hour per week. And in my case, it's 1 hour for all of my students, unless I'm lucky to get some before or after school time. Yeah.
I'm going to just take a quick poll with either the little thumb icon or the actual thumb. How many of you are offering actual assessments, like stuff that you would put in your grade book right now for an assessment grade, like quizzes or tests? Okay. No,
it's kind of a complicated question for us.
Yeah, or complicated. Yeah, that sideways thing. The reason why I asked is, what we've been seeing online about the equity of asking students to do, actual assessment, something that goes in the grade book as a quiz, a summative grade. Let's put it that way, a summative grade. I don't know how we can ask a lot of families to make. How many of you are parents? Let's do that. Okay, yeah, I'm not, but I have friends who are, and it's an amazing amount of work, especially if you had a child in elementary school or middle school or high school, or in all three of those. That would have been my family. All three levels, one computer, maybe one device, and then the teacher says, well, I want PDFs. Let's just remember that we cannot recreate that classroom experience, and summative grades might be something that is a lot smaller than we can imagine. A lot of you are putting questions in or ideas in the chat box. Definitely look at those. Okay, I'm going to go back to sharing my screen, Katie. Thank you so very much for throwing out. How about Justin? Do you have some takeaways?
Our group was kind of all over the place with how much time we get to work with our students. And there were quite a few AP teachers in my group, and just their general concern for how that's going to all work out. So it was a bunch of people who all want to do the right thing and the best thing for their students, and we're all kind of struggling to figure out what that looks like. So.
Well, that is a big, big deal. And I think that when we look at that time commitment, what are you able to give in your own personal life? Your school district may be saying you need an hour per day per class, and you don't have that in you. So how do you balance what the district is push, 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 and you can say, this is my cup and this is how much I've got in it, right? Thank you, Justin. Nathan, some thoughts?
Sure. So I heard a new term today, and I can't remember who in our group said it, but she referred to her ghost students, and those are the ones that aren't showing up and untrackable. And we talked about this a little bit in yesterday's session about how we don't know what could be going on, whether it's that they're just slackers and they're trying to get away from doing work for you, or do they have serious stuff going on, whether it be domestic violence at home, mental situations, or no internet, or no quiet place to work. I mean, there's a whole myriad of possible reasons. But, you know, I do understand that people do call in and check on them and check around with their other teachers or counselors, and but it is a problem, and but you know, we need to be understanding because there's all sorts of situations going on in, you know, our kids' homes.
And the guilt that some teachers feel with that, right? That they can't do the things that they want to do, or they're worried about their students. That takes a toll on us as well.
Definitely, definitely. I mean, we're not social workers, and we don't have the bandwidth to teach and do that type of work on top of our normal work as well.
Okay, thank you so much. And then Heidi, what are your thoughts? What did you
So
hear?
we were a little bit, just like Justin had said, kind of a little bit all over the place, but one of the big themes that prevailed in ours was the problem people were having with motivating their students to engage in the online learning, or just trying to actually hear from the students themselves. So we tried to offer some suggestions and ideas, kind of ways that were working for some that others could try, and just kind of to think of, well, if they're not engaging, what could we do? Maybe offer students more choices, kind of personalize the learning a little more to help them out. And then I shared some strategies that had been working for me, because I am down to just 2 students who have not engaged at all out of my 130 plus students.
Wow.
So yeah, it's down to 2, and I'm hoping by the weekend to have that down to 0, because today I deployed my minions, my little French minions, my children, and they were texting, Snapchatting, Instagramming, anything to get those students to respond to me. And I'm like, I will do whatever it takes to make sure I have them all engaged, and just making sure they're okay, because I love them. I miss them. And I know, like, we shared, like, a lot of my group shared that same thought, that it's like we just want to jump through our screen and be there for them and hug them. So that was our summary.
Yeah. I do hope our community members understand what we're going through. Really, it's not a good idea to be shouting it out on Facebook, because we know that people can take snapshots of that, or they can get reported back to our districts. We've all had, yeah. I think what we are asking ourselves sometimes is so much more than we know, or well, let's go on with that. I think we all had a great chance to have the open conversation. Our next job, and I'll show you next job, our next task is going to be where we're going to go into our focus groups. And I'm just going to put those up there again, because only 24 people have clicked on this conversation topic room. So Teresa's not here right now. So that's going to be the AP room. 3 people did choose that. So if you do want to talk just about AP, I'll make a room for you. Justin is thinking ahead for fall 2020. Nathan is connecting with the youngest learners. Let's see, Heidi has technology, and I know that she's always very popular, but we got to give a little space in that room too. And then Katie's got the self-care and flexibility. So what I'm going to do is start you on your second group, okay, and we'll talk about lots of things. And if that one, you know, like I said, if you
Hello. So the reason why I was most interested in this topic is I teach at a school with 3 other French teachers, and we aren't going to get through everything that we normally get through. It's just not going to happen. And so communication between us and knowing where kids end up is going to be really important, because going into next year, things that normally I would teach as review might be brand new things. And even if it was something that was gone over during this time, they definitely haven't had the kind of practice in order to master any of the skills that we've been trying to give them, just because this is such a unique experience. And then also thinking about if things continue and we don't go back into the classroom in August, what is that going to look like, and how to best prepare for that? So what we have been doing as a department is basically identifying the most essential benchmarks. So like, what is key? What do we want them to have seen before they come back if we haven't gotten to it yet? And then if we've already hit all of those for the year, which one of the teacher already has, I'm jealous of her, what we can do to keep them engaged so that when we come back, it's not this, well, I didn't have to do anything at the end of the year because it didn't count, because if we go back online in the fall, it's probably going to count. So all of those things. So tell me where you're at, what you're thinking, how can we help?
So I had a department meeting yesterday, and I'm the coordinator of our department. We have 8 people in our department from 7th grade till till 12th grade, just to give you an idea of our demographic. And we have about 625 in our high school, a little bit less in our middle school. And we start our languages in 7th grade, and we have 3, French, Spanish, and German. And so what I was feeling like when I left the kids, and thinking about the younger levels, like the freshman and the sophomore, what I was thinking was that really it's going to be like taking a 0.75 freshman and putting them into their sophomore year. And so, if you're in a situation such as mine, which I think a lot of French teachers are, you're the only French teacher. And so the kids, you have them, you can spiral with them, you can, try to, pick them up. We also know, though, that the very beginnings are so important, and when there is a deficit in the learning at the middle school level, you're constantly trying to pick them up. And that has implications with the student's success, their feeling successful, and attrition. So it's really layered. It's very, much like an onion, because we have to figure out, kind of guess at where are they going to be. Well, how are we going to continue with them? Keep them engaged and keep them feeling successful, but trying to get them to those benchmarks that we have planned for them. And what we talked about, of course, is spiraling. We also talked about what you had just mentioned, like, is it going to be, it was supposed to be review, but is it going to be new, and what are we going to do? So our director of curriculum has asked us to look at the next, so we're closed till May 15th, look at the next month or so and think about our skill building and our essentials, and kind of really narrow it down and skeleton it down to, what do we want them to know, and what can we do with them to continue to build their skills so that they are prepared, for the fall. And of course, in the world language classroom, that's completely different than in a science curriculum or in a math curriculum. And, we're all having these conversations the best that we can with our group. And the hard thing is that we were also asked to, take 2 weeks at a time. We know you're planners. You want to plan to the end of the year. You want to look forward to next year. But what does PD look like over the summer? Are we even going to have PD over the summer? Are we going to be able to get together? And, what does next year's assessment going to look like when our kids are lacking almost 15 weeks of face-to-face instruction? So I'm talking too much, but I'm sorry, but it was fresh in my mind. We just had this yesterday, so.
I think it's something that's important to remember, that these students will probably have 3 months less class time for their entire high school career. So if they are in 6th grade, it is going to ripple through our schools for the next 6 years.
6 years.
Until they are seniors. And I mean, it's horrible to think about that, but trying to pack 3 extra months into next year in our teaching is just not a reality. If you think it's a reality, I want to come and learn from you, because we all feel like our curriculum is so full and so rich, and we do what we do in order to get them to do what we need them to do, and to have to squish 3 months of school into another year, it just can't happen. Maybe 2 weeks. Maybe you can squeeze an extra 2 weeks in, maybe. But I just want to let you know that I believe that trying to squeeze an extra 3 months of teaching into next year is impossible. So don't feel like you have to do it, please. Other
Hey,
thoughts?
Jess, I may have a possible solution to this, because I have had to teach combined classes, French 1 and 2 together in the same classroom, 3 honors and 4 AP in the same classroom. I've had to like totally rewrite my curriculum, make it an A-B rotation so that we can include everything in the 2-year rotation. It's been insane. But basically, I have thrown out the book, so I don't have per se XYZ that needs to be covered. I have changed my whole mindset, and maybe this is something that everybody's going to maybe need to look at doing. I am looking at focusing more on the skills. I'm using the actual can-do statements as a guideline, a base for, you know, having the kids self-plan. What is it that you want to be able to do? They set goals for themselves. We check their goals regularly throughout the year. So I think that that is going to lend itself well to whatever we're going to be doing next year, because I'm focusing on the skills more than we have to cover X, Y, Z. It's an option.
Yeah, I'd like to echo that, because my district, I'm the only French teacher at my high school, and there's another French teacher in the district, but we've had to deal with already this year a change to the trimester system, which already had destroyed my year, where I was told that 2 trimesters of French was 1 credit. So my French 1 was, yeah. So I've already been living the dream, so to speak. And so now, I mean, I've got kids in my like French 1B who I had 2nd trimester, but also some that I had 1st trimester who hadn't had French for like 3 months. And so I feel like I'm getting a taste of what next fall is going to be like, which is just constant repeating myself and really focusing on the bare bones of like the can-dos for each thing I want to teach. And I mean, it's amazing how bare bones it can get. It's like, can you say I like to do something? Can you talk about yourself? We're good. Okay, we're moving on, because I just, yeah. So it's, I mean, the split classes are already hard. I've got that next year too, but I don't know. I just know that and not to get too off topic, but I I teach in a public high school that's, a challenged kind of environment. So my engagement is actually very low as well. I only probably have like 30% of all my students participating. So I don't know even how the kids that do earn some sort of credit for participating, if the counselors are going to be able to deal with the amount of no credits that are happening this trimester. So that's another thing. I'm not sure what my classes are going to look like next year.
I really appreciate your comments, Sandra and Jane. I teach at the college level and have done for a long time, and I mentioned this in the other breakout group. Looking forward, I'm hoping for the best, but planning for not the same, but but I'm fully anticipating the next semester, the fall semester, we will be online as well. And I'm trying to plan thoughtfully, because I think a lot of us, this was dumped on us and we didn't have a lot of time to plan. So I want to be more thoughtful after the semester ends, so that I can go into the fall semester with a clearer idea of what I want to do and how I want to do that. But I also want to make technology not be an impediment for our students, because right now it still is, not just for us, because I think that it is for us, but for the students as well, finding ways to bridge the gap that that seems pretty obvious to me for my students.
And yes, I am still here. I just had to let my dogs out before they all started barking. So feel free to continue your conversation, but yes, I am still here.
How many of you are middle school teachers? One? Okay, two? We've got two middle school teachers, and then elementary. Are there any elementary teachers here? So the rest of us are high school levels? Yeah, and do all of you have kind of like,
actually,
say that again?
At university.
Oh, university. I apologize. I need to think about that. Are you teaching online right now?
Yes, and I have been since March 16th, and we were on spring break the week before. So.
And then are all of your classes set up for next year then? For next like fall, quarter, or semester?
So we're on a semester system, and they haven't made a decision about things. You know, people are hopeful that they won't have to do everything online, but as I mentioned, I think just before you popped in, I'm planning that we will be teaching all of our classes online. So.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That's big. Just to check on the high school teachers, middle school as well. Do you have your students scheduled for next year? Have they registered for their classes?
They're doing it right now.
Registration's fairly early in the year, so I believe ours should all be registered already.
And even your incoming kids from the middle school or another school, huh? That's impressive, because I know that we are not done with scheduling yet. So I'm trying to figure out how to convince kids to keep going with that. So that's why I use Instagram, you know, trying to get you in there. Justin, thank you. I will be back.
Okay.
We're just kind of talking about scheduling for next year, seeing if that's an issue for anybody.
I think the wisest thing for any of us to do is to kind of plan for either way. So to try to plan things over this summer to address, I guess, strategies for online or in person, things that you could do either or. So for if we do end up teaching online, we're prepared for that. if we're not, we can still do those same lessons in person. It's a suggestion.
One thing that was brought up in yesterday's webinar is students cheating and just being like, oh, well, I'll just put these entire paragraphs into Google Translate and turn that in. And sometimes you need to take a step back and be like, what is important about what I'm doing? Is it important to me that my students can use depuis with the present tense to say like, oh, I've done this since Tuesday, or I've done this for 5 years? That's probably not important. And I can just let that go, but it's still important for me to teach them about like what is being a good tourist, what is volunteerism that's not going to destroy local economies. Those are things that we teach that are equally as important as the language. So just remembering that if you just do culture for the rest of the year, maybe that's okay too, because that's just as important as the language. And so that's an option if you find that your students are not creating with the language and just using Google Translate.
I have to say that I'm a fan of choice boards. And, you know, I gave my student a simple form just in Google Classroom that said, I spoke, I read, I listened, I reviewed, what did I miss? There's 5. And then I give them a choice board, and I try to give them a lot of different things, and then that way, you know, they can pick and choose usually high interest things of them. And then Google Classroom's easy because I assign it to each student, and then they just write back, you know, I spoke with my friend Elisabeth, you know, I read Magazine Savoir, I reviewed, you know, Le Subjonctif sur Duolingo, you know, I wrote the journal entry, madame, and I listened to a podcast or something like that. And I just do that like weekly. And like I just to reiterate, I think this is a different group of 4, but we're not allowed to take grades, and we're not allowed to mark kids down for what they don't do. But then in the very end, we're going to have to figure out whether they get the credit or not. So it's kind of a catch-22, if you will. So the way I'm looking at it is just that I'm trying to move, I call it moving forward with French. I couldn't write COVID-19 on my folder. I just couldn't do it. So it's moving forward with French, giving them choice boards, a lot of different things that they can do, trying to hit all of the skill bases, and then giving them like just that little document. Tell me what you did each week, one little thing. And it might not fit in for, you know, people who are really like being forced to teach that hour a day, or, you know, to give grades, or, you know, to show. It's like you said, you know, we're all in different scenarios, but that at least gives, you know, choice boards are fun, and at least gives the kids, you know, a choice to do some things that are interesting them, and then hopefully, you know, hitting the skills. And then at least, you know, in our district, we're supposed to give 1 grade a week. You know, I give many, but let's just go back to that teacher handbook that says I have to give 1 grade a week. Then that could be something that I give it a C right now. It's complete. When it's all said and done and I have to come up with a grade, or if we do a pass-fail, I can change that to, I give them 5 points for each one that they do. So that little sheet once a week is for 25 points. So this is something that I do that it's pretty easy, and I get a pretty good response for it because they do get to pick and choose what they like to do. Hope that helps.
just a clarifying question on the choice board. So you just, and I'll Google it after, but just, it's really like student directed, and it's kind of like the student is, you're just taking them at their word that they've done those things. You give those ideas and then they just make kind of like an attestation that they've done it.
Right, yes, and I do. I have to trust them that they're doing it, you know, and I've been hearing the stories, you know, this week about kids zooming in and, you know, putting their picture up there, but going to play with the dog and, you know, whatever it is that they're doing. And, you know, like it is, you have to, I guess you do have to pick and choose what's important. You've got to, you know, I'm very lucky. You know, I've got really great kids, and, you know, for the most part, I really feel like they make the effort. But yeah, a choice, you can use a choice board. Like I say, our LMS is Schoology, and so each week I just put a folder up and I make sure that I kind of direct them, though they don't know it. So their choices are what I would be teaching them, if you will. We get together. I do 1 hour. I do an hour a day per level. So Mondays is 5, Tuesdays is 4, Wednesdays you get it, and then I go through the weekend. So I you know, they sync, if you will, and then I do Q&A, you know, when I'm actually doing live, you know, teaching with them. So yeah, I just find choice boards they like them. You can decorate them, you know, but you can also, you get to pick and choose what are in there, whether it's a Quizlet on a particular set of vocabulary, or a Duolingo on a review of a grammar principle, or like, so this past week, or, you know, when we closed, or I'm sorry, was Easter, you can find, you know, un jour une question, you know, pourquoi les cloches au chocolat, and then, you know, they can do that. So yeah.
I kind of have a sneaky way to make sure that the kids are participating. So I do like fun things like, okay, next session, guys, everybody show me your pets. So they have to have their cameras on so we can show each other our pets, or wear weird hats, or let's do Hawaiian Day. So, and they're all about that, okay? Today's hoodie day. Everybody put your hoodies up. And it's just a way that I can see them so that I know they're participating. And if they're camera shy, I say you have to at least speak then. So you're either speaking so I can recognize their voice, or I see them on the video, one or the other.
Yeah, those are all good ideas. I think those are anything that you can do to get them, you know, to be engaged and whatnot. And, you know, I'm a bit of a dinosaur as it goes as far as the technology. And so I have to laugh at myself and, you know, have them laugh with me if I'm not sharing correctly, or, you know, they'll pretty much tell me or whatever. But we, you know, we had a virtual spirit week because it was supposed to be spirit week at our school. So every time they saw me, I was in a different whatever it was supposed to be that day, you know, and I try to start with a funny meme. So we always have, you know, we start with today's humor and, you know, get them laughing, because, you know, what we were talking about in our other chat room is the kids who are ghosts. We're not really sure. You know, I have one student who babysits 4 of her younger siblings while her parents go to work. I have one girl who she has very high anxiety about zooming in, so I told her, you know, mute your microphone or mute your video, and, you know, like you say, just say a word or whatever. So I think anything that we can do to, you know, get them engaged, and then of course the kids that are there, once they're there, they enjoy that contact via virtual. You know, sometimes it's hard to say goodbye because they don't want to. You know, I might be on longer than I'll say, I'll stay here for a while if you guys want to do a Quizlet. Do you want to do a Gimlet? Do you want to do a Kahoot? oh yeah, let's do that, Madam, you know, and then whoever's there at least are participating. So, and hopefully they'll spread the word through their little text messages. Come to calendar talk on Friday.
Okay, we're probably going to get called back to the main room very soon. So I just wanted to say thank you to all of you for coming, for sharing, for listening, and just remember these are unique times. There are no wrong answers. So just do what you can do, and not just like physically can do, but emotionally can do, because some days it's just heavy, and it's heavy for our students as well. So be kind to yourselves, and I'll see you back in the main room.